want to welcome you to Fuel Live. I am your host, Melanie Benson, and I am the founder of the Growth Fuel channel here on Substack. I also host the Amplify Your Success podcast. You might be listening to this later on the replay of this amazing conversation. And I host a community called the Rising Tide Collective, where I believe one of the most beautiful things happen, and that is collaboration that elevates you, opens doors, and creates win-win-win opportunities. And my guest here today is someone I've known for a really long time, but we've reconnected through that Rising Tide Collective. And when I caught wind of what she's doing, I was like, oh yeah, we have to talk about this on Growth Fuel, because it couldn't be a better time to bring the conversation of prosperity into an elevated conversation. So let me give my guest a really beautiful introduction. This is Eva Gregory. She is an award-winning inner authority mentor who helps soul-led entrepreneurs move from proving their value to leading it. She integrates inner guidance, energy alignment, and proven business strategy to help experts like you and me trust their work more deeply, attract high-end clients, and create premium offers that reflect the depth of their transformation. Now, here's a fun tidbit that I actually got to know about Eva over the last few months, is that at one point she was almost $100,000 in debt and near bankruptcy in a different kind of business. And she jumped into a 7-figure bottom line within 9 months using her techniques around the law of attraction. So Eva, thank you for getting through the technical gate here and getting on to Substack. We all learned something today. So thank you for being here. I'm loving the conversations we've been having lately, because you just actually did a really cool training for the Rising Tide Collective. Now we get to have this conversation here. And, I'm just seeing so much, let's just say there's a lot of conversation happening in our industry about struggle, about lack, about changes, about what's happening. And I'm just kind of curious, what are you noticing occurring right now in the expert space, the coaching space, around these changes that are happening in our world?
Yeah, it's interesting because it doesn't always look like what people think lack would look like, right? So what I'm noticing is there are a lot of really brilliant, successful entrepreneurs. They've got a deep body of work that they are using with their clients. They're getting results. They've been at this for years, and they're starting to question, is this really working anymore? Like, things are different from the last couple of years. Does my audience still have the resource to invest in my offers? They're questioning like whether their work is still valid right now, whether people even want the transformation the way they used to. I mean, all these types of questions, these are the things I've been hearing. And a lot of them are deciding, okay, so based on what I'm seeing, or they have a bad launch, then they also see what's going out. So they create stories about what's going on. Some of it's valid, but they're deciding, okay, I'm going to make things smaller and easier to say yes to, thinking that's the responsible move. Okay. On the surface, that can look practical. And it can look like, well, I'm paying attention to the market. I'm being sensitive to what's happening economically. But if you actually trace it back, it's not that, it's actually the lack consciousness. And it's tricky because it doesn't sound like lack or fear. It sounds like I'm being realistic. People are struggling right now. The market is different than it was. And so people are being more cautious. And so they're letting what's going to be the determining factor in their decisions and setting, okay, what do I want to focus on? What do I want to create here? Now, I'm not saying ignore what's happening out there. We got to be aware. Don't want to be tone deaf to what our audiences are going through. But there's a real difference between being aware of the market and then letting the market become your ultimate authority. Okay. And that's what I'm running into with a lot of entrepreneurs today. It's like they're letting the fear, and it's coming from, a lot of it is from the collective fear, right? They're letting that influence their decisions. And decisions that come from fear or lack or scarcity only lead to more fear and more lack and more scarcity. And you know, one of my favorite questions in the world is to always bring it back to, what if success is my only option? Then what? You know, what would I be thinking? Where would I be focused? Who would I be talking to? What kind of questions would I be asking? You know, and can I share a client story here?
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
I won't use her name, but I did. I had a client, and she was real. She was established. She ran a successful business for years, very respected in the industry. And it was like, I don't know what happened. Something like over about 6 months of time, she started making these little decisions, like, I'm going to drop my price point. And then she decided, I'm going to add extra calls to the program. And then she decided she was going to add some extra services in that she didn't even typically offer before. She was like wanting to make robust, but then lowering the price. So none of that was coming from strategy, by the way. That was coming from her scrolling and reading the news and seeing what everybody else in the industry was saying about the market being tight and all of that. And the way it worked is she was doing these one little thing at a time. So this unfolded over time. It wasn't like I made this one big decision and now I'm doing it. And so when we got together and we were looking at, okay, let's look at the timeline here. What's going on? Then what we looked at was, okay, she was making the market the authority. Okay. She would hear something and she'd make a decision. So it wasn't like one big dramatic decision, but it's like 100 little small ones that start to add up over time. And so pay attention, any of you who are listening, if you've been doing this, pay attention to that, because each one of those little things by itself can actually feel really reasonable when you're doing it in isolation. I also want to say something about these are successful women and they're soul-led women. And of course, we're into our spirituality and meditating and journaling, and they're really great. I'm saying as a collective, I don't want to stereotype us, but I'm just going to say in general, what I've noticed is it's easy, it seems, to create what they want in other areas of their lives. But when it comes to the business, and this is what happened to me in the software company that you were talking about before, we freeze, right? We freeze when it comes to the business. So, and I'm not immune to that. I'm not immune. That was what I went, like, I threw everything I knew about law of attraction and inner guidance out the window when it came. I was working it on the rest of my life, but when it came to the business, I went right back to my old mode of operation until I finally didn't. But it's almost like our nervous system treats money decisions differently than every other kind of intuitive decision, because we have so much old programming around money and wanting to be of value and to support others. And then, oh my God, and I'm about to write an article about this next week, maybe this weekend, depends. I got a launch coming up, so it might be a little later, but it's going to be on being spiritual and being wealthy can coexist. And there's this belief that it can't. And so it's a gremlin that runs rampant out there, and it's loud and it's obnoxious, even though our guidance knows better.
Okay, we just covered so many beautiful moments and a lot of wisdom there. I want to go back to something though that you said, and that is, when we as experts, because like I've been in this business 26 years, you've been in this business longer than I have. I think we're right about the same time, somewhere in there. Yeah. And I think we both talked to so many people who have been in the business over a decade, and we're seeing the shifts in the market. And we have a couple of different paths that we take. What you were describing feels like the react.
Yes.
React to what feels like is happening out there. Maybe even slide into a bit of this victim mentality of like, this is happening to me.
Yes.
And like you said, you make the market the authority. And what I love that you said is we make up a story.
Yes.
And in my experience, because I've had to do a lot of work on this, because I came from poverty. So I really had to recalibrate everything in my being to create success in my business. And it's very easy for me to slide right back into those lower level consciousness patterns, right?
Yeah.
So what could we become aware of when lack consciousness is starting to take a lead and starting to make our decisions and form a story that's limiting and trapping us where we don't want to be?
Yeah. So here's what you can pay attention to. are you trying to prove yourself? And what I mean by that is, are you trying to prove that your approach is different or that the transformation is worth the price that you're asking for? Because when you're operating from, I need to prove that it's valuable, okay, that is lack. Even though what you're doing is not, you guys, I know that what you're offering is massively valuable, but it's in our mind. Like we have this, the gremlin, right? But when you're operating from that energy, that's when you'll start noticing my messaging, I have to start explaining it more, or you feel like you have to justify everything instead of just stating this is what it is. Okay, notice that. Or like my client, you're like, I need to cram more into the offer to make it seem more valuable. Okay. And by the way, one of the telltale signs, because that's one of the things I work with clients is on how to create a premium offer from their work, is if they feel like they have to keep adding bonuses for it to justify the value, then they don't believe in the value. So this is, unfortunately, no matter how good you are, how successful you are, you could have a great reputation, a solid client base, you could have years of experience, you got results behind you, and you can still feel like, oh my God, I'm one bad launch away from imposter syndrome being found out, right? Look, I teach inner guidance. I teach prosperity. I teach energy alignment. I have had great years. I've had bad years. I've had everything in between. And it doesn't mean that what I have is not of value. In fact, sometimes I've gotten in that place that's like, hey guys, I just teach this stuff. I don't live it. I'm kidding. But you know what I'm saying? We still have life, and life is going to happen. I don't care what your philosophy is and what your thing is, right? And through it all, your work and you are still valuable. It's what we do during those times that makes the difference. Does that make sense?
Oh, so I'm getting full body chills. And you don't know this about me, I don't think, but I actually studied the law of attraction through I'm a licensed spiritual practitioner.
Okay,
And so
I
I
did not know
studied this
that.
stuff for like 6 years and integrated it and took so much training and, NLP, hypnosis, all of it.
All the things.
Yeah, and one of the things that you speak to that just lights me on fire is recognizing that space in us where we make a decision from the evidence around us versus a decision from what is it that I want more of.
Yeah, exactly.
And you were talking the other day in our community about efforting.
Yes.
And so here's something I recognize in myself is that when I have a spark of possibility and I pursue that spark, thinking that it's my inner guidance, but it doesn't pan out, it's very easy to make the decision what I did is not valuable. Instead of what do I need to do differently to reach that success pinnacle, whatever success means to me. So I'm curious on your take on that, because I think there's a lot of people that get that inner guidance, but is that fear? Is that like the scarcity playing out and like, let me prove this value that I have through this offer? I think we should unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, let's do, because we can get into that imposter syndrome. I think we all have that to some level or another. I mean, I still do. It ain't gone away. But looking at the value versus the fear is, when you're in value, here's the way to look at it. When I am making a decision, because here's what can happen. Like, we feel like, but I'm not ready. Okay. So if I'm ready to make a decision and it's just like, but I'm not ready, then the question is, what is the not ready? Because here's the difference. If you're saying I'm not ready, but it's like neutral, boring, I'm not ready, I need to get this other piece of information. When I get that, then we'll move on. Okay, that's good. The difference is I'm not ready. So I'm going to tweak the program just a little bit more. And I'm going to do this to the program. No, I'm not quite ready. I've decided I'm going to add something to it. it's like you're putting off things. Does that make sense? Is this answering your question, by the way, or did I get off on a tangent?
Well, I think we're covering something important, and maybe there's a little bit deeper level here, but let's say more about that, because I think that's really important.
Yeah. So what's happening here is that each time we are growing, all right, let's say that we're growing and expanding. By the way, we're always growing and expanding. And the thing that we don't want to do when we're making our decisions also is we're not wanting to be pushy or manipulative in what we're doing. We're doing something maybe that's new. And so we're stepping out in something that is unfamiliar. And there is a difference in stepping out and making a decision that doesn't feel comfortable and it being a gremlin. Like your guidance is still going to call you out to something uncomfortable. Okay. We don't grow in our comfort zone. And what I see is a lot of people are making a decision from fear. And then they're confusing that with a decision to step out into something new and better that they're being asked to step into because of the fear of the unknown. There's a difference in the fear because I'm afraid I'll be rejected. They say no, I'll be afraid. Gosh, give me some examples here. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head.
What if I lose all my time because this actually does work and it takes over my life, right?
Oh, there's such a good one.
What will people say about me if I really unfilter my leadership message and put this out in the world?
Yes. And so there's always the ramifications. And here's the way I work around those. That's so good, Melody. I should be asking you for the examples. So here's what happens is when I'm working myself and with clients, it's like, okay, what if I am successful and it does take all my time and now I don't have a life, right? That's one that can be out there. So every time you come up with something like that, you re-script it. What if I do get successful? I have the clients that I want, and I still have plenty of time to do all the things I want to do. That just scripted out the issue. Does that make sense? So you want to take the issue or the bump in the road, and then you script. I call it scripting, journaling, whatever. You script it out to the way you would want it. Because once again, when you're thinking, okay, what if I get successful and I don't have my own time? My life is not my own anymore. That's lack, obviously. It's focused on what you don't want. And that energy is going to create that. And so as you're feeling it in the moment, but wait a minute, what if? What if my success meant that I can be wildly successful, have all the clients that I want, whatever that number is for you? It could be boutique, it could be lots. And I am having a full, fulfilling life with plenty of time left over. And now you get to create that. But if you don't ask that kind of question, if you don't what if up, that's what I call it. What if upping? What we do is we what if down. Oh my God, what if it doesn't work? What if I don't have a life? What if, right? Well, what if up it? What if you did? What if there was plenty of time? What if you could have a business that you only worked, I don't know, 20 hours a week and still had everything that you wanted and serve your clients? You know, so it's that what if up game that now, once again, just like what if success is my only option, it's going to shift you into the thinking and the questions that are going to lead to the answers for that.
I love this so much. And, you know, one of the things that what you're speaking to that I found very helpful is when we basically imprint on our mind the focus on what would have to happen for this to work, we're radically more resourced.
For sure.
And I feel like we are activating next level thinking. We're so much more open-minded. And I know, and I've coached people in the past who are in the space of like, well, I can't afford for this to fail. I can't put all my eggs in this basket and have it not work. Nothing I've done recently, Melanie, has worked. So what will make this any different, right? And like that energy feels very constricting. Right. So if somebody found them, I mean, I know you talked about scripting, but sometimes people don't even recognize they're only focused on what can't happen, what won't work. What's maybe a kind of a trigger or a sign they can become aware of? Look, you're trapping yourselves in why it won't work instead of what what success could look like? How could they become aware of that?
First of all, I always bring it back to how you feel. How does it feel?
Mm.
How does it feel? I've just asked this question. How does that feel? It doesn't feel so good. Okay, here's what that's telling you, people. Are you ready for this? It's not your truth. If it doesn't feel good, it's not your truth. And the reason it doesn't feel good is because your inner guidance, your soul, your connection, your higher self is not going down that path with you. It's saying, no, come this way. What if it can? And you go, but what if he won't? And so now you're going in the other direction. And because you are the one, your higher self, that's all there. They never leave us, right? It's you taking the path away. And so if you could recognize, wait a minute, this doesn't feel good. That means this can't be my truth. But when I think about the opposite of this, what if I could make it work? What if there are ways to do it? And by the way, another thing is to say, who else do I know or have heard about that has? Find somebody that's evidence is another easy way to do it. But to feel that feels so much better. I don't know how. I don't know when. It's something I've never experienced before, but it doesn't mean I can't now, because guess what? We are growing and we are expanding, and growth and expansion means we're always stepping into something that we've never done or experienced before. Hmm. So we have to be willing to step out. When I talk about the comfort zone, it's like, this is where our gremlin wants to keep us, in the comfort zone. Our guidance is calling us out. And so it's like, okay. And baby steps, by the way, my book, Life Lessons for Mastering the Law of Attraction. There's a chapter, baby steps lead to avalanches. So we're into our comfort zone, and then we're asked to step out. And so just take a baby step out. And so you step out and it feels like this. Oh my God, I'm just so uncomfortable. And then you live to tell about it. And now you have so now what's the next step? And so you step out once again. But guess what? The comfort zone is getting bigger, and you're learning that you do live to tell about it, and living very well. So just some of the ways that I encourage my clients to, for me, the whole thing is always bringing it back to how do you feel? That your emotional guidance is your most fundamental level of inner guidance right there. And it's always with you.
Can I go a little deeper on that for a second? Because I'm wondering from your work, the way you hold space for people to step into prosperity, is it possible that somebody could be getting inner guidance, but their limiting beliefs and their fears put it through the lens of, that's not right for me?
Yes.
And so then they don't move it forward out of fear, or like, out because they just never experienced something like that before. They don't even know that that's a path that they could take.
Yes, absolutely. Such good questions. Oh my God.
Thank you. It's not like I've lived this or anything.
No, right. Well, me too. Right. So here's the thing. This is where I say, like inner guidance and mindset or energy alignment, both. You got to have both, because here's what happens. We can get the inner guidance. And as you said, if our inner belief says that's never happened before, it's not going to happen for me, that's not for me. It's our mindset that's keeping us. So even when we're being guided, we override that because of the mindset. And so with our mindset, it's kind of like this. We're a fish in water. We don't know we're in the water, right? And so this is the point where if you're feeling that way, you got to bring it back to how does it feel? It doesn't feel good. Okay, great. So what's the belief here? The belief is I don't believe I can do that. Even though my guidance says, your guidance will never steer you wrong, guys. I said this to you guys yesterday. Your mind is a trickster. Your heart never lies. Bring it back into your heart. But you focus it on it doesn't feel good. So if that belief doesn't feel good, what's the opposite of that? Feel it. You feel it. You can tell. You can literally shift how you feel in the moment. And that's telling you your truth of what is. And now you can say, okay, then we do the work to help you shift that belief, right? What if up game is one way to do it. And here's the thing, even before the beliefs get shifted, when you start doing things like playing the what if up game, what's it doing? It's shifting your vibration. It's shifting your energy. What's that doing? You're getting yourself in aligned frequency-wise with the things that you're asking for. You're getting yourself up there in that frequency without having to do a whole lot of head work if you keep bringing it back to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's always lead with your heart. Lead with your heart and then follow with your mind. We've been taught the opposite.
Yes. I mean, I was trained to be logical and practical. And that's not where my best decisions have ever come from, because that would actually keep me safe.
Yeah. Yes.
I want to flip the conversation a little bit, and thank you, those of you that are just joining in. Michelle's saying she's loving this conversation so much. Thank you for joining us. Um, let's flip this to what prosperous, thriving, expert entrepreneurs, coaches, soul-led business owners are doing. What are the patterns you see them claim and stay in?
Yes. So the first thing is they don't take no for an answer. Okay.
Don't take no for an answer, friends. Okay, write that down.
Yeah, really. Don't assume the worst. Don't assume the worst. And so it's like, okay, I have this desire to serve, and I want to make an impact. And now there are certain things that don't feel comfortable to me. But once again, I'm checking in with, how does that feel? Wanting to do the transformation, the impact feels great. Now, if there are things we're going to have to do that don't feel good because it's outside our comfort zone, yes. And it's being willing to do it anyway. This is the one time when I would say feel the fear and do it anyway, because normally I would not be going with that, right? But there's fear that's your story, right? And then there's just the fear of the unknown, even though you're being called to do it. So the difference in those two is there's fear of running out on the freeway and getting hit by a car, or the fear of getting on stage in front of 3,000 people when you know that's what you want to do. There's a difference in that, right? Yes. And so it's being very sensitive. You learn to be sensitive to that, but their mindset, successful, is, first of all, I don't care what other people think. That's a big one. I'm going to do it anyway. And by the way, if I fall down, it's okay. I will get back up and we'll try it again. But you have to be willing to do that. There is no such thing as I make a decision, I want to be there, and there's a straight line there. It doesn't happen that way. There's all of the resistances, the beliefs, the fears, the stepping out, being into the unknown that happens. And that's when we have that little, way to get to success. And it will feel like, but I've tried this so many times and that one didn't work and this one didn't work. Oh my gosh, I don't want to get into human design. That's your thing. But my human design is my way of doing things. It just hit up against the wall and see if it works, and hit myself this way and see if it works. I'm used to this. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it. But that's kind of me. I just have to do it and see what works. But there's this commitment to, if I've got this calling, I know that I've got everything within me to do it, even if I'm going to fall down a few times. Be willing to fall down. You're gonna.
I love this. I want to just infuse one more piece. That first pattern that you mentioned, I recently saw this brilliant female marketer who she kind of unpacks launches sometimes. And one of the things she talked about is like, look, yes, the market's crazy. Yes, things aren't working the same way. But here's what really, really successful entrepreneurs do. They don't say, this isn't ever going to work. They say, the market's been weird. I'm relaunching.
Yes.
And I'm going to keep focusing on, how do I bring this to my audience so it does work?
Yep.
And I think that really kind of builds on what you were saying earlier. It's like, you don't take no for an answer. You don't take a failed attempt as evidence it's not right.
Game not over. Game not over.
I love that so much. So you talk a lot about moving from efforting and proving your value to like being in flow. You've got a quiz that I think is really important. We're going to share a link for you all to access this quiz. And I would really encourage you, even if you've been on the top of your mountain, but you want to reach that next level, or maybe you're in that pattern of like, I keep bumping up against things that aren't working. You notice fear, maybe it's playing a role in your decision making and taking you out of inner guidance. Eva, will you tell people what the quiz is, and we'll give everybody that link?
Sure. It's called the Prosperity Pattern Quiz. And this is to help you find, where are your prosperity patterns? Okay. Mm-hmm. So, we're called to help others. That's who we are. And the clients and the opportunities and income can still feel inconsistent. And you're like, why? Why is this happening? And so the reason the prosperity sometimes isn't flowing is because of that prosperity pattern. Okay. And that's your level of prosperity consciousness we're talking about. So the quiz is short, it's 2 minutes. And at the end of the quiz, you'll find out what your current prosperity pattern is. And it will also share some of the specific shifts that will help you move out of that.
I love that. Yeah. So if you all go to melaniebenson.com/prosperity, I just dropped it in the chat. We'll also make sure it's in the show notes wherever you watch this later, just so you can access it quickly. And I'm just going to share for Eva that she's got some additional training coming through over the next few weeks as we go live with this that you're going to want to keep your eyes on and notice like what else gets revealed to you that's going to help you not just know your patterns, but actually move through those patterns into consistent prosperity and thriving. Because look, if we've been stuck in these patterns for a long time, we need resources, we need community, and we need leadership and guidance to hold the level of what's possible and repattern. I could never, ever have shifted out of the old energies into the new, and I would never be able to sustain them if I wasn't surrounded with people who got it. So do you want to add anything to that, Eva?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Yeah. And I just think the biggest thing is to remember that you don't need the market's permission to lead. It's all within you. You don't even need to be certain, but you do need to be willing to take those next steps. And I'm just going to add one more thing. Can I add one more thing? That
Please,
just,
yeah.
You know, you think about it with the GPS, you know, talking about the not being ready. You get in the car, you program the GPS, but if you don't hit the accelerator, that GPS is not going to help. And your guidance is the same way. And I call it, it's my inner GPS, and I call it guidance powered by spirit. And it's the same thing. You're going to get the guidance and then be willing to take that one next step. And then you're going to be led to the next and the next. But the real question left is, are you willing to stand fully inside it in your guidance and then allow that to reflect back in your business?
Beautiful. Thank you. If you joined us live here and you are with us in the Substack community, I highly recommend that you follow Eva and subscribe on her channel. She's publishing some really, really awesome stuff. And part of it is just a little bit of her mindset and her own approach of going through this launch that she's in right now. It's fantastic. As somebody who's launched programs and events and offerings for 25 years, I'm like, oh yes, Eva's hitting the nail on the head on this one. So it's really brilliant to tune into. And if we're new friends, please stay connected here on the Growth Fuel channel. We go live every week, either with me or an amazing guest, and we'd love to have you. So let's stay connected. Give me a little shout out. Let me know you tuned in today so I know how you found us. And if you're listening later on Amplify Your Success, please give the show some love and rate it and review it and give it some stars on iTunes. And if you want to join these conversations live, come on over to Substack and play with us in this amazing, deep, rich, and deeply connected community that's forming here. I'm loving it so much. Eva, thank you for bringing your brilliance and your wisdom today. Giving you a big round of applause, my friend. You have so much value and so much wisdom that's here to transform our experience with money and success and prosperity. And I'm excited to see how our community supports you in your growth as well. So thanks for everyone for being here today. Thank you, Eva.
Bye, everybody.